Hello. Oh,
I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Heart Conversations, a project of the iHeal project for Inside News and the Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation. Uh, Leading this conversation, the third, I think, or fourth in a series, is Dr. Courtney Jordan-Baechler. Dr. Courtney, how you doing? First of all, good afternoon. Good to see you.
hi, thanks. I'm great. Glad to be back.
Well, glad for us to be in conversation. It's always wonderful, and I'm pretty sure that these rich conversations are of great value to people that are listening and tuning into this conversation. Today, I want to introduce you to a couple of friends of mine, people that I've worked with through the Insight to Health Fitness Challenge. And on the call are Annie Persuad and her daughter, Schevita Persuad, PhD, Dr. Schevita Persuad, who's a school psychologist working in the Minneapolis public schools. And I came to know them because they both were participants in our wonderful Insight to Health Fitness Challenge. And they'll talk about that in the course of today's conversation. Um, but this program, Annie and Shavita, is for us to have a down to earth, frank conversation with Courtney, and we're going to use first names, right? So that we talk about our stories, our experiences, our challenges, and expectations. And we have the benefit of the listening ear of a cardiologist, a doctor who can help us interpret our experiences both for ourselves, but really for people who are listening, because we know that the things that we go through, hundreds, if not thousands of others go through. And people go through things in life without having the advice, the feedback, the chance to have people hear their story. We're storytelling today. So, first of all, thank you guys both for being here. Good to see you both. Let me have you introduce yourselves first, Annie and Shavita. Talk a minute about you, who you are, and where you are in your life. Uh, Miss Annie, start with you.
Okay. Well, as you just spoken about me, my name is Anti-Inflammatory Diet, and I will apologize from the start. I am recuperating from a surgery that I've just recently had, and it might interfere with the way I would like to express myself. But it was brain surgery, and I am recuperating. Shavita's my youngest child, and I'm a mother of five. And before Shavita, I had worked as a uh, elementary school teacher for many, many years. And uh, I've enjoyed it. I've loved it. I've had just a wonderful insight with children. I've always loved working with them. And like I said, from the surgery that I just had, and it makes it a little difficult for me to express myself the way that I would like to. But since Shavita is and is with me, I can say that I am truly blessed. And with Shavita, she's is just so into her education. She loved working with children, and she went far ahead of her mom. I do not have a doctor's degree in my education, but Shavita has done really well in her job. And again, I would like to say that I engage right now in a speech therapy, and that will help uh, the way that I need to have always spoken and worked with. But um, that was affected by my surgery, but I am doing so much better. Just doing really well. So I'm thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. It's wonderful. Thank you very much.
let me say how good you look and how great you sound. And
Thank you
so
so much.
kudos to you. But I'd expect nothing different. You were and are such a warrior. And such a powerful and motivated and motivating spirit. And so you were one of the joys of our organization to see you walk into the gym at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. Just your presence elevated and encouraged and motivated all of us. So again, you look great and you sound phenomenal, and I'd expect nothing less. Shavita, talk about you for a minute. Miss Annie, did you say you're a PhD as well? Did you say that, or did I
No.
under?
No.
Oh,
No.
you didn't say that. Okay, you were talking about your daughter, the PhD, right? Maybe.
PhD,
So
yeah.
let's talk to Shavita, because you're an inspiration too.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
She's the
you.
main
Thank
reason
you.
behind it. One of the main reasons. So I'm my mother's youngest daughter, youngest of five. And my mom was she taught preschool and early childhood education for many years. And so education was always a primary focus in our home. And then I was able to find my niche in school psychology. And so I went to the University of Minnesota for my undergrad in child psychology. And then I went to Loyola University, Chicago for my master's and doctorate in school psychology. It's interesting. I started off my career actually during the pre-med track. I was interested in being a pediatrician. I realized that my passion and my skill set was not in the hard sciences, but I definitely wanted to reach families and youth in a different way in terms of social emotional skills, and particularly you can reach families that have difficulty seeking services within the school setting. So that's where I focused in school psychology. Knowing my family history, and we'll probably go into that. My On both sides of the family, we have a history of some health problems. My mom has been through a lot, and she's so resilient and strong. She had a brain surgery to remove a tumor. The tumor was benign, but she had to get some pieces of her brain removed, and so it impacted her speech, and so that's why it's sometimes hard for her to recall. So there may be times that I may step in to help her, or she may have to pause and just say, I can't remember. So I apologize for that. But we're supporting her. Her and my sister and all my siblings are supporting her, and she's amazing, and she's my motivation. So when we started the Insight Challenge, I pulled my mom in because I was like, I had just moved back from graduate school, and I was still writing my dissertation. But I got a glimpse, I guess, me being so immersed in my education, I was somewhat shielded from my mom's health issues. So the sister that's right above me, she does a lot of the maintenance and then the support for my parents' health. So she takes them to all their therapies, their appointments, has really been the caretaker for both my mom and my dad. But when I moved back home, she had her son, and I was like, all right, I'm going to step in because I'm not going to find a job writing my dissertation. And I realized just how significant some of her health challenges were. My mom, at the time, she was facing a lot of challenges in response to her type 2 diabetes. So issues with her eyes, she had to go to physical therapy and things like that, and just a lot of health challenges. And so with that, I found out about the Insight to Health Challenge, and I was like, and I moved back, and I had gained weight, and I was like, you know what, I have all these health issues. I need to get on the right track, and I wanted my mom to join me on that journey. And that was the first time that she had ever really been active in her whole life. So it was so fun, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but it was an amazing experience. I wish we could do it now, but I'm just so grateful for those opportunities to meet Mr. McFarlane and Batala and Miss Bobby, and it was just such a good experience. So my mom is kind of addicted to the working out piece. She had to take a break for a while because of her health issues, but it changed our perspective on health and fitness, and it built a stronger relationship with us. So yeah,
Absolutely.
a little bit more probably than what you wanted, but
No, that's perfect. Wonderful, wonderful. Let me ask Dr. Courtney to jump in here. Courtney,
Yeah,
please meet my friends. You see why Batala and I treasure them so much. But please join the conversation.
absolutely. So yeah, you guys look amazing. Kudos, and you sound wonderful, Miss Annie. So I'm so glad to have you guys here. And this was kind of, I don't want to say anything to our other guests, but the session I've been most excited about, because what you guys are really doing is a lot of prevention. And that's the type of cardiology I practice. And like Al was talking about, some of our goal with this is through your story to bring about some awareness and education about what's possible. So, as it relates to the blockages in the arteries, kind of what most of us think of as heart attacks and strokes, and even potentially the development of diabetes or the maintenance of it, about 85% of it is preventable through how we eat, how we move, stress in our lives, sleep, those key pieces, tobacco use as well. And so, part when I met Batala and learned about the program that you guys are referencing, which I'd love to hear more about, I was so excited because all of that sounds really easy, right? I'm sure you've all heard it a million times. You got to eat right, you got to move, but what really makes a difference is how people are actually doing it, and sort of the good social pressure that comes with doing it together, the mother-daughter thing that you guys have going on in a good way, of how you like value it as a family, because that's the part that's so tricky, I think, myself included, to figure out how you get a 10-year-old, in my case, to eat vegetables or whatever the case is, or with working. And so I would love to hear from you guys, what that looked like, what entering the program looked like, and sort of how you were able to make some of those lifestyle changes we're talking about.
Sure. So when we started the program, the major components of the program were in-person fitness. So we would all gather at 6 a.m. We had two different locations. I think the first one was the YMCA, Cora McCorvey. We met there at 6 a.m. and from 6 to 7 or 6 to 6:45, we worked out. And the two fitness instructors that were involved, actually there were three, but from, I believe, Monday through Thursday, we did cardio and weight training, and it was modified to our fitness level. So my mom was so anxious because she was like, I'd never worked out before. You know, she has a lot of mobility challenges. So she has degenerative bone disease. And so it's sometimes hard for her to walk. But they met us wherever we were. For a second? Sorry. So we worked out together, and they met us where we were. Another component, on Saturdays, they had a nutritionist come in, and also those fitness instructors come and talk to us about eating healthy. And so they gave us journals to document what we ate at what time. And then they were great journals because they had us reflect on what we did good and what we needed to improve on. Also, at the time, my mom was battling some challenges with her kidneys in response to her diabetes. And so she was, shuffling through different medications. And so she was having a hard time just figuring out a low sodium diet. And so we were doing a lot of research with that, but the documenting helped. And then also her being active gave a lot of incentive, like great information for her doctor to be able to support her health. So it was fitness 5 days a week, optional, although many of us went to the health, the nutrition discussions. And then we had accountability. So we all had accountability partners that we would check in, and they weren't necessarily like, I was all automatically my mom's accountability partner, but we also had other members who were in the program hold each other accountable. So my mom made a few good friends who supported her along the way. And if we were absent, they'd call and be like, hey, what's going on? Why weren't you here this morning? We needed you. I missed you. And so, yeah, it was kind of all around health, fitness, nutrition. And then also there were some kind of, I feel like, inspirational, like soul activities. So we did what was it? What do you call that? Where you map out your dreams with magazines. They're called
vision board.
Vision board.
That
yes.
was cool. That was fun. Yeah.
Like we did a vision board activity, and we kind of talked about just our goals and dreams and aspirations, and we just kind of went around and like motivated each other. So it was an all around like health in every aspect, wellness in every aspect that you can imagine. So yeah.
Did you all do the yoga too? Because I made some of the yoga sessions. I thought they were really, really great.
Sorry, I missed that. So there were two instructors did like strength and cardio, and then on, I believe it was Fridays, we did yoga. And so the yoga was good too. My mom actually, what's funny is she's more flexible than I am. So we had these parts, you had to do the fitness tests, I think 3 times at the beginning of the program, in the middle, and at the end, so you can track your progress. And part of it was a flexibility exercise. And so my mom, she was afraid to get on the floor to be able to show, how flexible she was. But once we got her to the floor, they made fun of me because she was more flexible than I was. But yeah, the yoga was so relaxing, and it was great to get a variety of different fitness experiences.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you brought that up, Al. I think sometimes, again, we get so stuck on just thinking about cardiovascular exercise, like walking or jogging or biking, and then what we eat. And we really forget about the mind, body, spirit piece of things, like you mentioned. And we've talked a couple times on the show that the importance of purpose, I think, is so huge. And, whether you're doing vision boards with the magazine to kind of illustrate what that is for you, but I think for most of us, it's there, whether it's family or the kids that you're helping at the schools that you work at as a psychologist or whatever it is. But sometimes we lose track, and especially these days, I think, with the pandemic and everything that George Floyd's murder, and just you can get overwhelmed and lost, I think, with your own individual purpose. But as a physician, that's such a huge part of what we see, kind of someone who lives with their disease or versus someone who's become kind of controlled by their disease. And it sounds like it can be one and the same, but it's amazing that it's different. And it's so, I think, if nothing else, that's such a big piece for people to take away is, it's still your body. You're the one choosing how you move through this world and what drugs you do or don't take, and all those types of, active roles that a person, human and patient, gets to have. I'm curious to have you dive in just a little bit more from a nutrition perspective. So we often, or I should say, I guess I often give people kind of 3 choices of diets, ways, I hate calling things diets, but ways to nourish your body. One, I talk about the Mediterranean diet, which, we usually highlight that it's got fish and lots of fruits and vegetables and, a little poultry. It's kind of the easiest, the most normal of the diets. And then the other 2 are a little bit more extreme. The next one is what we call the anti-inflammatory diet, and it has very little meat from animals. And then the last one is a true vegan diet, which is all vegetarian. And all of those really have been shown in studies to have really great properties for our hearts and the rest of our body. But I'm curious, you hear those terms, and then what does that actually mean? What are you buying at the grocery store or wherever? Where are you getting it? How are you getting it affordable? And how are you making it actually happen when we're all so trapped for time.
So you're asking specifically about those diets?
Well, or what did it look like for you? What did, because those are just things that sometimes we give for advice. What did you hear? What did you do? And what did what did it actually mean? Because what we might prescribe is often different than what people, there's some give and take of what works, what's available, what's doable, all those things.
Right. So in the program, they focused more about kind of just awareness of what you're putting in your body. That was kind of the first step, and documenting, what you ate at what time and what the calories were. So we used the journal, but I also used my Fitness Pal because it was easier for me to look up calories in that way. And so I helped my mom try to document. It was a little bit hard for her. But I think the main focus and the starting point for a lot of the people on that journey was just the documentation piece. And then so we did research on the low potassium diet and included like smoothies and here and there. Say we didn't prescribe to any specific type of diet or lifestyle, but we were really just being a lot more mindful about what we were putting in our bodies. So I would check in with my mom about, is that's high in sugar, right? Because my mom is watching her sugars. So we need to, you shouldn't have that pop may have too much sugar. What is the alternative that we can use for this? Trying out different recipes. As within the group, we share different recipes with each other. And yeah, just kind of encouraging each other to live healthier lifestyles. I've tried a few different things myself. So I did like the water challenges. I've done a few smoothie challenges just to kind of encourage me, just give me a boost. But I think that overall I'm just reducing, like I have a meal a week or a day a week there. I don't have meat. And then definitely increasing my vegetables. So getting a lot more vegetables, green leafy vegetables into my diet, so that we both tried to do that. My mom actually lost within the program. She lost about 20 pounds. And part of that was because
wow, that's amazing.
Part of it was because she had some water retention. But also, she was working hard. I think I gained a lot of muscle. So I lost about 10. But it's still, I was stronger and I just felt so much better. And going into that a little while ago, well, after we finished the program, I don't know, what was it, some months later, I had my daughter. And so going into that, I was already on a path of fitness and eating healthy. And so I didn't gain any weight during my pregnancy. And I actually maintained that weight loss. So it's been a great experience.
I have a question, guys. And Miss Annie, let me ask, where are you guys from? I think you're from down south, but I'm not sure where. Are you from Texas, maybe? Or you told me, I can't remember.
Mississippi.
Mississippi. The reason, that's right, my wife Bobby is from there. And the reason I ask is because I know you were from somewhere where they have a lot of good food. And our culture, is a culture that really places a huge emphasis on quality food, and food is bountiful. And so the question comes to mind, how do you both appreciate, the beauty and the taste and quality of a history of food and food abundance in general that the South represents for most people, but also compare that with what you need to do as we grow older and we don't have the same, we're not walking the way we used to when we were kids or younger, and our lives become more sedentary, probably teaching at school or me sitting in my office. We just don't get around the way we might have done when we used to go to, roller skating or more walks or bicycle riding and things like that. And so food has to be one of the core things. And how did you guys come with moving to the plane that you've described, Schevita, trying different and more healthful foods without sacrificing the quality and the the rich food experience that is part of your cultural makeup. Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah.
It does. It does. Well, being born in the South, as deep as you can go, Mississippi, uh, I learned uh, the old-fashioned way of cooking and preparing food. A lot of it was gardening, green vegetables that you grew. And my favorite fruit, watermelon, we grew those also. And but all of my children, after I got my education down there, I got my degree. It had been a university. You ever heard of that? Anyway, the way that I taught children the old-fashioned way to cook, and an example is when Thanksgiving, the stuffing, dressing, or whatever you want to name here, was the old-fashioned way. And my children don't go in the store and get the packaged things that you can buy in there to stuff your turkey. They go from scratch. And that was just an example. But a lot of ways they just learn and like it the way that they were, their mom taught them. And then of course there are new things or whatever, but they're like old fashioned, you know, that we would grow food and prepare it. And
so I think that we talked a little bit more about moderation. So we definitely had those meals for Thanksgiving. We had our rich dressing, we had our turkey, we had our mac and cheese. But we also knew that, okay, we have this day to do this, and then we need to get back on track. My mom, even though she was an amazing cook, like my mom cooked for my high school, like I think high school prom twice. She did like catered different events. She is an amazing cook. When she was able to move, and so now we're taking a little bit of break from that. But my mom is a great cook. But we're learning that you don't have to eat so rich, and you don't have to have all those pieces all the time. So, and my mom didn't always cook those types of things throughout the week anyways. It wasn't that much of it wasn't a huge shift, I guess, from that, but we definitely had to learn, okay, the things that we have on our regular Tuesdays or our Wednesdays, how do we modify that to be a little bit healthier? But I think the nice thing about, at least from my understanding, when my mom cooks some of the traditional foods, they are from scratch. And so you don't have a lot of the prepackaged preservatives and things like that you may get sometimes. And so even though it may be richer, to me, it's still healthy for you, especially if you're eating them in moderation.
Well, the thought that comes to mind as you were speaking, Miss Annie, was just what you said about we grew our own food. And when you grow your own food, that's organic, and that's healthy. And you put it in the ground, you take it out of the ground, bring it into your house and prepare it. And it's good food. And so the question is, and maybe Dr. Courtney, you can respond to this. How do we encourage, what are all the benefits of gardening, for example? So there is an explosion of gardening now, people remembering and using space, in their front or back or side yard to grow vegetables in our growing season. I think that's a wonderful thing. That's what I do. But there are many, many benefits just in terms of movement and quality of the food and the satisfaction you get knowing that you knew the beginning and watched the development and now the harvesting and consumption of this product. And it's clean, it's good, and it doesn't have chemicals in it. And that's what you all were doing, what we did growing up, I think. Not so much me because I was in Kansas City, but you had to do that in the South. You described that, and that's a wonderful thing. But Dr. Courtney, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. You guys have hit on so many great points. I think that's what's so interesting to me is that we truly talk to people in their 70s and say, okay, you've eaten this way your whole entire life. Now eat this bizarre way that doesn't make any sense. And of course it doesn't last. And so I think doing things that, going back to how we used to do things, or in your case, how you continued to do things, Miss Annie, is key. And gardens have really exploded, and there's so much there. There's there's all sorts of study being done right now. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but like walking in the forest barefoot. And it's kind of the same thing with gardening, that on top of the fact that the food is so much healthier, there is that holistic piece that we were talking about, that it's super calming to be in the dirt and to be, really getting back to roots and growing things and being a part of solutions that, and you're burning calories while you're doing it. And I wish I could say I was a big gardener. I would be totally lying. And anyone who knew me would say, she better not be saying that. I'm not. It's like probably on my dream list of things to do. But I'll never forget like the first time I had a real garden tomato, and was like, wow, this has, I've always hated tomatoes, but this has great flavor, because the tomatoes I get all look the exact same, and they've been so over processed. So I do think a big part to, really making a difference and sustainable difference for people down the road is this kind of, how do we make it work for us? What tastes good, and how do you grow it? How do we have more urban gardens that make it easy maybe to share? And just the portion control piece, I think, is so huge. One of the questions we got online was about, do we ever use smaller plates? And I don't know about you guys, but I do have a few larger plates in my house. And then, I mean, there's still probably, it's not like a saucer or anything, but I do always eat on the smaller side of plates, because I'm somebody that I fill my whole plate. It is something mentally for me to like see that I don't want a half of a plate, so I think there's something that there's some truth to that just, if people only took away one thing of having more fruits and vegetables, like you're talking about, ideally vegetables, whatever they are, and then otherwise just cutting back, so not excluding things that you love, is really a good sustainable way, because it has to be sustainable. Yeah. So I couldn't, good question. But do you guys participate in any type of urban gardens or shared gardens, or do you have them? It sounds like, Al, that you have it like in your backyard.
I do. Yeah. I've had a garden for the last probably 10, 12 years or more. And at one point in time, I actually took half of my entire backyard and plowed it, and had a wide ranging variety of crops, and it was like farming, and I loved it. It was just fun to do, and it looked good. And then sometimes I modify and use smaller parts, larger parts of the yard, but it makes it very nice. And what's cool now is when my grandson Reggie, the third, comes over, and like he would take the kale, for example, and harvest one and bring it around and have me and his dad eat some raw kale, and that was cool.
Yeah.
So just him being a part of the garden was fun for me to connect with him on gardening. So it's cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. How about you guys, Miss Annie and Schevita? Do you have gardens that you participate in?
Currently not right now. I would love to. I'm in the process of trying to prepare to buy a home. So my hope is that we'll have enough yard to be able to have a garden. Right now, I just try to get, utilize farmers markets as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I go to Trader Joe's a lot. I try to get
Yes.
buy organic as much as I can. Sometimes Whole Foods, although they're sometimes pricey.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
then different places like that. I try to get fresh produce.
Mm-hmm.
Also, North Market would also have local farms, and different local farmers bring produce. And so we go there. Actually, my mom used to work out there after the program was done. She would work out there, and then we would, get some of the produce. Sometimes they're half off.
Mm-hmm.
So utilizing local either farmers markets or places where we can get fresh produce until we can be able to do that. I don't know much about farming at all. I have a good friend who is great at it, and I've been like picking her brain. So when the time comes, I'll be able to do that. That's my hope.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. And I do feel like I always joke that I feel like I should get kickbacks from Trader Joe's because I think that there's a list there to put together to make it easy for people. Because it's, I feel like it's relatively affordable, especially compared to Whole Foods. And then they have so many neat creations of like, here's 3 ingredients to make a black bean soup, and sort of that in between of somewhere natural, but you can still throw 3 things together and kind of have a meal 20 minutes later for a family is pretty helpful. But one question I have for both of you guys, and maybe particularly for you, Schevita, is stress and how ongoing as your sandwich, right? You mentioned you have a new baby and you're helping out with your mom, and you've got your PhD, and it sounds like you're a psychologist at schools too, right? So you've got lots on your plate, and I'm curious how you manage that, or if you do anything in particular to help with that.
Yes. So yeah, a lot of things in the air, especially it's challenging with COVID. Us as educators in Minneapolis are just being called back to go back in person. So there's concern about that, the safety of that, the protocols and all of that. And then, yeah, I'm leaving my baby for the first time. And I have so much anxiety about that. But I think, and this is partially because of COVID, I haven't really been able to engage in this as much as I want. And then also with my daughter, but fitness has been kind of a way for me to release and find peace and calm and reduce some of my stress. And so I, before the program and after, I engaged in Zumba. Actually, it's not Zumba anymore. It's Afro-Caribe fitness with Valerie Florentin. But that fitness community has been, they kind of bring a lot of peace. So I go for the fitness because it's a release, but then also I get to connect with members of my community and other women and men who are focused on health and fitness. So that's a big piece of stress management for me, but then also spending time with my family. So spending time with my mom and my sisters is really important, and just leaning on them to vent when I need to, or support. And then on Sundays, as much as we can, my mom and we watch church online. So I bring my computer and I set it up, and that's our time to kind of get back what we haven't been able to participate in since the pandemic. So yeah, I think fitness, faith, and family is what really helps keep me grounded and allows me to push through some of our really challenging year.
That's awesome. We know about 30% of all heart disease overall is from, challenged mental health, whether it's stress, anxiety, or more significant things like depression, schizophrenia, whatever the case is. But I think it's one of those things that, it's basically as strong of a risk as, smoking or high blood pressure, and we don't really talk about it. And I'm sure this comes up in your work as a psychologist. As a culture, it's not something we emphasize a lot, and yet there's so much great data on like what you're talking about, the importance of safe socialization these days during a pandemic, and figuring that out. Faith, if that's a part of your life, or finding, being a part of something bigger. Exercise is great for folks, and then lots of data on the power of 5 to 10 minutes of whatever it might be: meditation, listening to music, sitting in silence. I used to joke, maybe this is something you can do as your daughter gets bigger, but that I would come home from work and say, I'm going to change my clothes, and like sit and lay in my closet for just a couple moments to just, have the day move from work to night, so that you didn't feel like you were going from one place where people needed you to another, because it can be a lot. And unfortunately, we know that women have worse heart disparities. And then unfortunately, from a racial perspective, we also see brown and black people having worse heart outcomes. So we want to change that. We know we can, but I think there's a lot resting on women's shoulders. So it's tough.
Yes, I definitely agree. I did my dissertation on the health and mental health disparities of within the Black community and how that impacts trust in healthcare and service providers. And so that's definitely been a focus of mine. But then also how stress manifests in our bodies. So and I'm definitely an internalizer, being a helper. I hold it in, but then it manifests in my body. So there have been times that I developed shingles.
It's nice.
That was really really stressful. And so I knew that I needed to find some type of outlet. Because then I will affect my body in a way that I don't want, in whatever health negative health outcome may come from that. And so I'm grateful that I'm finding some different avenues, because sometimes when it's manifested in our bodies and then we go to our physician, sometimes we're not heard. We really need to take control of our health and also have advocates for each other. So my sister and myself have been advocates for both of my sisters, actually. We've been advocates for my mom and getting her the health, the support that she needed. So when she had a seizure disorder for a very long time, and it was getting worse and worse, and we weren't getting the feedback we wanted. We didn't feel like she was improving. Her vision was getting worse. All of these things. Mom decided to get a second opinion at Mayo Clinic, and things changed in a dramatic way. We finally felt like our voices were heard, and that's when she got the surgery. And so she hasn't had a seizure since then. So it really speaks to you taking control of your health and your body, finding advocates, and then not taking a no at this, seeking out whatever you need because you know your body.
Yeah. It's been such a big theme of the shows that we've had, and I didn't know that was the dissertation work that you've done. So it's really interesting to hear, because I think all the prevention stuff, which is so important and powerful, can't really happen until a person feels empowered and able to have that opportunity to get what they need, be heard, and potentially get other opinions or whatever the case might be as needed. But that's such a huge piece that I think in general for people, sort of there's a misunderstanding of that is your right as a patient to get a second opinion, and hope any good physician, as I often say, is comfortable having you go wherever that might be to get that opinion. And unfortunately, there's some that aren't, but that's a sign usually right there that maybe that it's not the right person. So I really appreciate you sharing your story and advocating.
Thank you.
Courtney, I wonder when you meet, Schevita and Dr. Miss Annie, and hear about a variety of challenges, but you are looking through the lens, I think, as of a cardiologist. How do you process that? How do you position yourself to be of best service? Because it's not about just the heart on the one hand, but it is about the heart, because the heart drives everything, I think. So how do you process that so that we know, what's motivating the questions you raise and how you examine our story and our bodies as patients of yours?
Yeah, well, that's such a great question. So one of the things that it's been exciting to me is seeing more people come in for prevention visits. And I just was talking to someone yesterday who said, I didn't know that this was a field. Like, I didn't know you could go see a cardiologist before something happened. And so I have many people that I check in with once a year who maybe have a family history of different, and basically that's almost all of us, whether that's high blood pressure, diabetes, strokes, that are in that cardiovascular family. To what you said, it's bigger than just the heart. And then that gives us a dedicated time, again, at least once a year, sometimes more for other reasons, to sit down, focus on your health, because there's all this other stuff going on, to look at some objective markers, to also talk to you about how you're feeling, how you're doing. And then it also gives us a way to say, okay, here's the newest stuff that we found out, to make sure that you're kind of in on the secrets, if you will, of this is what we've learned, this is what's new, that's changed in preventative medicine. And it's usually a great way to kind of check in on those other areas too. Did you get your mammogram? Did you just check in with so-and-so for these other preventive things? So that's what I hear when I hear you guys talk, just because there's an opportunity to keep you on that healthy side, and to keep you doing the great work that you're doing, and being the microphone for all the folks in the schools too. That's such a great place to be, because so much, right, of our mental health is connected here, and there's just such great opportunities, I think.
I was thinking as Miss Annie and Schevita were talking and describing the workouts, one of the highlights of the workout, and this speaks to the question, I think, of mental health and of relaxation and yoga. But for me, the workout was always brutal and hard, and you felt good that you walked in the door, because you every day question, can I take off today? And when you shook that off and showed up, that made you feel good. So you work out, and I always worked out watching the clock, right? So we got 25 more minutes. Oh, 20 more minutes. Oh, 10 more minutes. But usually the last 10 minutes or 5 was cool down and stretching, and with music. And I just remember that this almost euphoric feeling of making it through the 45 or 50-minute workout, but also the cool down routines and the music and the vibe. There was a shared experience there of fulfillment, completion, accomplishment, and a sense of reward for having done the work. And I am trying to articulate maybe something about how a person can reward himself or herself for small things,
Yeah.
in ways that you recognize and appreciate, and then come back for that little benefit, of saying I did this, and I acknowledge that I've done it, and I feel good about that, and therefore I'm motivated to do it again. But did you guys feel the same thing at all, Annie and Schevita? What was your thought at the end of each class?
Well, I don't know how mom I don't know how mom felt.
I felt good, if I, finished the class, and it made me feel real good. I had a lot of, that's my word now, from Schevita.
Encouragement.
Encouragement is a good
Pressure.
word for you, yeah. And I did feel really well completing, the classes.
Mm-hmm.
Working for me. Really good.
Yeah. I think I was never an athlete ever in my life, but I think in that I was a cheerleader, but we were inner city cheerleading at North High, so we were, it was a little different. But I think I felt myself getting stronger, and so that was like really, really exciting. Like we would do different rotations, and I was really excited that I knew that something that I couldn't do last week, I could do this week, or I couldn't do 2 weeks ago, I could do this. So when we did the fitness test, sometimes I could see like I'm able to do 15 push-ups. I could barely do like 2 last time, but definitely at the cool down, it was just exciting to just listen to the music, kind of take a breath, center yourself. I had to drop my mom off and then go to work. So it was like, it just felt so good to be able to transition in that way and calm myself to go to work. And it was great. And then we would often end, or we would start and end with, I will not quit today. And then, we would say together, I did not quit today. I pushed myself through. And so it was kind of like we would sometimes do a huddle and then end it. And so it was really encouraging and exciting and also calming at the same time. So yeah, it was great to just finish each day and then say, we got through another week and we got through another day.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I think we're about out of time, but I wanted to ask Courtney to sort of do a summation and recommendation for listeners, viewers, and for me and Annie and Dr. Schevita as well, coming out of this conversation.
Yeah, so I think you guys just brought up such a great question there too at the end, that small steps would be my theme. Our body to feel the things that we want, to feel empowered, to question medical authorities if we're not getting the care that we need, needs to feel safe. And sometimes from a prevention lens, that means doing less, but a little bit is better than more. So, starting small with adding a little bit of movement in, maybe that's a walk, maybe that's a little bit of yoga on a YouTube video, or getting outside, feeling a part of something. So thinking about that, adding more vegetables this week is a goal, I think, and taking some time to think about your why, your purpose, what gets you up each day. And then last, sharing that with the people that you love. It's those elements that really make us live longer, richer lives. But it really is within us to be healthy and to thrive, and we all deserve that. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your stories. Miss Annie, you look great, you sound great, and really thankful for all that you've done, Schevita, for your family, and good luck with school and your daughter and everything that way.
Thank you
Thank
much.
you so much.
I appreciate it.
Well, listen, thank you, Dr. Courtney, and thanks to Cindy and Batala for putting this whole thing together, representing both the Minneapolis Heart Institute and Heart Institute Foundation, and representing iHeal, the Insight Health Equity Action Lab, the successor to the Insight to Health Fitness Challenge. Thanks again, Annie and Schevita, and we'll do this again. We'll let you know when the next program is. Enjoyed you being here, and stay with us. Take care. I'm Al McFarlane.
Bye.